everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taco Matta Tuesday, the show where we eat healthy, delicious tacos and have conversations about life. There comes a day when you realize that the fear never actually goes away. That if you really want something, you have to be willing to do it scared. And maybe this is the only way you ever get to discover your fullest potential. Maybe you just have to dive right in and face the very thing that scares you most. Because in the end, it's not the rejection and the so-called failures that will end up haunting you. It will be your own potential left unexplored that does. This is such a reality check quote that I am so excited to start the episode off with this week, as we are going to dive into this fear of falling short. We're going to talk about being able to navigate past those moments of that fear. And maybe you have fallen short, just like I did in an experience this past weekend. How do you push past that onto greener and better pastures? But before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about the taco of the week, which is Mateo's Fajita Tacos. Apparently I'm in a singing mood today. So this is something that I made Dave and I this weekend. I introduced him to Mateo's salsa. And if you have never had Mateo's, guys, you have to go and get it off the shelf. It is so freaking good. My actual favorite flavor is the mild, even though I like a little bit of heat. Dave's a little bit more on the mild side, so we got to keep it that way. But this is like the one mild salsa that I absolutely love because it's just so flavorful. And I was really in the mood for fajitas after our big hike that we did this past weekend. So I made up some fajita veggies. I made up some yummy steak, seasoned it beautifully, topped it with some Mateo's salsa, and it was a healthy, delicious refuel, I guess, post-workout recovery meal. Just delicious. So if you want in on these delicious tacos, go to the show notes before you leave the episode today and grab the recipe card. All right, let's jump on in. So I just mentioned that this past weekend, Dave and I went on quite a large hike. And what we wanted to do was do either a 13er or a 14er. And so we chose something that was fairly close by in Idaho Springs, and we wanted to summit James Peak. We originally wanted to go backpacking or camping, probably more car camping, just because I'm getting ready to leave. He's getting ready to leave. I'll be gone till the beginning of October. He is not going to probably want to go anywhere out in the mountains, at least staying outside wise, probably without me because I'm a cute snuggle buddy. But anyways, we just wanted to get something in our happy place before the real season for that starts to end and it starts to get really chilly. And so we decided to actually move it to hike just because logistics allowed for it. So what we did was we set our eyes on James Peak 13er to summit it. And I was like, I've summited several 14ers. I love hiking. I'm a freak of nature at hiking. I'm stoked. Like, this is going to be just a great, easygoing workout. What ended up happening on the other side of that was anything short of that. It wasn't my fitness. It wasn't my cardio system or just like breathing whatsoever. In fact, I feel like I was nasal breathing most of this hike. It was the fact that my body muscularly in my lower back started to give out, and I was in so much pain. And I've been dealing with some random hip pain, some random ankle imbalances, just things as you age and you get into higher level athletics where you're putting more volume onto your body. Things start to hurt a little bit more and things get worn down a little bit easier. So you got to keep up with it. And I've been doing my best to keep up with it. Didn't feel like my body was going to completely take a poop on me, but it did in the middle of this hike. And so he had to take my pack to try and help me. And like, no matter what way I tried, engage the core, engage the glutes, lean up, lean down, whatever it was that I was trying, it wasn't working. And I was just in this unbearable amount of pain and I was trying to hide it. And at some point I couldn't. And so we got to the point where we basically were, I would say, about a half a mile before you start the real last mile summit scramble up to the top. And I was just looking at it and thinking about how much this gradual incline has really torn me up. And I was just thinking, I don't know if I could do this. It was just such a sad thought to cross my mind, knowing how good of shape I'm in, how much I love hiking, how much I, was totally capable of doing it, and then just not being able to because my body wasn't in the space to actually do it today. And I was really disappointed. And so Dave and I sat down and I pulled out my peanut butter and jelly sandwich because I love food, and PB&J's on the top of a mountain make me really happy, really happy. And we just talked about it, and we talked about some really good things. And we decided to turn around and just go back to the car after I think it was a little over 5 miles of hiking. So we had already put in a decent amount of time and a decent amount of mileage. And so I let him run ahead because I knew he wanted to do some sweet downhill running because that's his jam. And so I did a fast walk behind him, whatever my body allowed for. And I let him do his thing because in a way I felt like I let him down by not reaching the top when I knew that that was something that he probably would have enjoyed doing and didn't want to be carrying his girlfriend's pack and worried about whether or not she was going to make it back to the car safely, right? So I felt embarrassed there. I was disappointed, but we were able to move past that, make the right decision, make it back to the car, do about a 2-hour descent down off-roading in the car. That was terrible. We're not even actually going to talk about that. But all of that to say and chalk it up to, I, at the time, was really upset, thinking I was such a loser and such a weenie and mentally unfit and physically unfit. And that really bothers me as someone who takes a lot of pride in working really hard mentally, physically, emotionally, and this should have been a cakewalk, and I couldn't do it. And so what I wanted to do today was jump on the podcast to tell you that story in hopes that maybe it inspires you to think about something that's happening to you right now or something that's happened to you recently where you've either fallen short of a goal, something that you really wanted to accomplish, or maybe you're afraid to take the risk or the leap of faith because you're afraid of falling short of the goal. And I wanted to share that to let you know that it happens to everyone and just to bring some realness to the situation for those of you on the other side of the microphone that look up to me and think that my life is rainbows and butterflies. It's not. I go through heartache, I go through pain, I go through a lot of hard times all the time, and it's my bad if I don't share that. But I wanted to share that for that specific purpose, in addition to the few things that we talked about and the few things that I personally reflected on the way down the mountain that really helped me turn this experience into what I felt like was me falling short into something that actually benefited me. And I hope by the end of this podcast, it's going to inspire you to look at these situations in your life that are very similar, but maybe in a different context, as a win and as a growth opportunity for you to, again, continue to embark on bigger things. So the first thing, and this was right around when we decided to have the conversation of let's sit down, let's eat the PB&J, let's get Kayla back to a good level. Let's talk about what we're going to do here. The thing that Dave brought up was, what is the bigger goal? Why are we even out here in the first place? And what he reminded me so graciously is that this whole adventure was just something for us to get outside and to be in our happy place, to spend time together and to get some movement in. This was not something where we were here to execute our fitness or, even worse, get hurt for that matter, which if we probably would have went on, I wouldn't have doubted that I would be in a rough spot, which would only impact me for the future, for my training, for American Ninja Warrior trip that's coming up next week. It just wasn't worth it. And so I realized in that moment that I lost sight of what the bigger purpose was of us being out there. And that, yes, while it would have been cool to summit, another big mountain, that was never really the actual purpose or the actual goal. And so I encourage you in this moment, again, to think about the things that are upcoming, or maybe you're trudging through the middle of the situation right now, is have you lost sight of the bigger reason or purpose for your pursuits? And is what you thought mattered, does that really actually matter? because I thought that it mattered that we peaked, and honestly, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything about my worth. It doesn't mean anything about my fitness. It doesn't mean anything about anything. It's just simply, it wasn't our day, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing, right? The real point, the real matter of the fact was that I got this awesome opportunity to be outside, to enjoy my weekend with a person that I genuinely care about. And that's all it was ever meant to be, right? And so again, go back and realize, have you lost sight of the actual purpose or of the actual goal, and ground yourself on that. Ask yourself, do I have the right purpose? Do I have the right why for this pursuit? And if not, then it's a great soul searching opportunity where you get to ask yourself really good questions in the hopes that you get better answers, right? So just a great soul searching and reflective opportunity. The next thing is, and this is what I thought about on the way down. So I was like, Dave, I want you to get something out of it. I feel like I took a little bit away from today's experience just by what's happened. And I want to make sure that you get what you want out of this, which I know for you, you really wanted to bomb some downhills. So you run ahead. I promise, I'm a big girl. I'm going to be just fine. Go ahead. And so as he was doing his thing, some of the things that I thought about was, what area of opportunity is this ultimately highlighting for me? What I realized in this moment was that my area of opportunity to work on was a fear of judgment. When I thought about not being able to summit the mountain, I felt super embarrassed and was more worried about what other people would think when I told them the story versus what was actually best for me, which is not healthy and is also not necessary in any stretch. This is an area of opportunity that I now get as a learning lesson because I chose to trust the universe and allow for it to continue to give me these things. And it just does. It keeps throwing these things my way, these lessons my way, to help me level up in life. And so this is a great chance for you to think about, what is the area of opportunity that this experience is going to highlight for you at the end of the day? Can you find a reframe for whatever it is that you're going through and think about, how is life showing up for me in this particular moment? It's really easy in these moments to even lose sight of gratitude. And I know that this is something that is an overplayed record, but guys, gratitude has helped me in some of my darkest of moments. Not because I'm spitting out things that are meaningless, but because I'm actually thinking about how life is showing up for me and how lucky I am to be walking through what I'm walking through. It's very believable, realistic things. So this is your chance to go through and do the same thing. And also highlight where you can grow. What is your next personal growth exhibition? What book are you reading next? What podcast do you need to listen to? I love when things like this pop up in my life, not because I'm like, whoo, I love seeing my weaknesses, but because I know if I work on my weaknesses and I start to make them my superpower and not my Achilles heel, then guess what? I'm going to get better and I'm going to get to know myself more. I'm going to become more trusting of myself, more believing within myself. And that is a very empowering process to go through. And I love getting to learn more about how to make myself even more of a badass. And I'd hope that you do too, because you're sitting on the other side of the microphone listening to me talk about these life experiences. So at the end of the day, think about, what area of opportunity is this ultimately highlighting for you? And what are your action steps? What are you going to do next to do something about it and to make it something awesome? The next thing, and this is the most important thing, is that you will always get what's meant for you. It was not meant for me to go to the top of the mountain that day. What was meant for me was to actually honor where my body was at and trust myself that I was making the right decision to pull the plug early. Because that is something that I've struggled with, especially in athletics, is being like, no, you have to push harder, you have to do more. And I'd say even arguably talking about this now, just in life in general, we think that we have to constantly push past this pain into constant discomfort when sometimes that's just not necessary or healthy at all. And so I realized in that moment that what was meant for me was to actually listen to myself, listen to my gut, listen to what was most important, which was my own voice, and trust myself that I was making the right decision. That moment was more pivotal than me standing on the top of the mountain. And here's what was really funny, you guys. So we made that decision. Again, we're on the way down. What I realized as we were about halfway down and I met back up with Dave is I looked where we came from and the route that we were about to go. On the original route, we would have summited the top and it would have been a descent all the way back to the car. Well, now it wasn't just a descent, but there was a fairly steep ascent back to the car because we started on a decline, which was the first time I've ever done that, at least in one of these 13 or 14er hikes. So I looked at him, I was like, well, that's going to hurt. That's going to be awesome. But it was an amazing opportunity for me. And this is where I got to experience everything that I actually needed to experience. I got the opportunity when I got to the final stretch, I want to say it was 0.5, maybe half of a mile, maybe a little over half of a mile up. I got the chance to go internal. I got to work through limiting beliefs, and I got another opportunity to focus my thoughts and practice focusing my thoughts, which is something that I'll be doing in a few short months from now. I got to ultimately bounce back from making a tough decision and then reap the reward of climbing the peak that I was really meant to climb that day. And that was super special. And again, it's just a reminder that you will always get what's meant for you. It may not be what you originally wanted or what you thought that you needed, but if you just continue to trust that the greater universe has your back, it's going to serve you and take you where it is that you need to go. And this is ultimately where I want to leave you with today, is that this is a reminder, this whole episode is a reminder that good things ultimately take time. A year ago, I had the goal of racing elite at World Championships, and I fell short. A year ago, I was heartbroken at a relationship ending, thinking that it would be impossible for me to find my person in life. A year ago, I had this whisper to train higher level athletes, but was consumed by doubt and what I was capable of doing. Today, I'm celebrating qualifying for several elite races for this year's World Championships. Today, I am happier than I could have ever imagined with someone that brings so much joy to my life. Today, I am embarking on some big endeavors that I'm thrilled to see how they play out in the next couple of months. And this is all because I chose to practice patience and believed in the timing in which my life was happening in. I'll tell you, some days are much easier than others, you guys, and there are moments where I still question the path. But being able to take this moment to look back at the road that I've traveled reminds me that there's so much potential ahead. And I got the opportunity to take what I just read out to you guys and post that on my social media. And what ended up occurring from this is that someone reposted it to one of their social groups, and it clearly was making an impact on other people. And so in the chaos of it all, if you ever get nervous that you will fall short, just remember that regardless of what happens, that A, you'll be able to handle whatever comes on the other side, and B, that the road that you travel, whether it's up, down, swervy, anywhere in between, that you're going to inspire someone. That the ultimate goal and the real honor is the ability to impact someone because you chose to not give up. Falling short is not the problem. In fact, it's the opportunity to truly make impact in this life. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today, and I hope that this episode truly impacted you. If it did, please be sure to share this with friends and family that need to hear it, and rate and review the podcast if you have not already. As an update, I am leaving in a couple of days to go out to Las Vegas for American Ninja Warrior obstacle testing, and I'm super excited, but I will be gone for about 10 days, which is 2 Tuesdays. I am going to do my absolute best. I already have some plans and thoughts and progress about how I'm going to make sure that the podcast keeps going, but stay patient with me. If for some reason the podcast releases a couple hours or a couple days late, I for sure will be in your guys' ear about all of my experiences and lessons that come from this next awesome adventure that I'm about to go on. But until then, you guys, enjoy your week, and I'll see you guys next time for another episode. See you then.